Welcome to the Brian Craig Show podcast. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. And of course, the Brian Craig Show podcast is brought to you by Tom Laporta and Laporta Contracting and Roofing, who will never sell you a roof you do not need. If you're in Florida, go to LaportaRoofing.com. Call Tom Laporta. All right. So the Democrat convention has started off as a disaster. And before we get to that, a clip of Kamala Harris from 2019, I believe this is. Yes, 2019, that I've never seen before, has just dropped on X. And, you know, interesting thing about her and her controversies, like I remember I'll just mention a couple of people with a Clinton and Biden. A lot of the controversial things with Biden, I know there were some things that he said, you know, one or two things when he was vice president, but most of the crazy things he said were like Clarence Thomas and before. So they were like decades ago, right? When Bill Clinton ran for office, I'm not talking about after he was president. When Bill Clinton ran for office, he was involved in a lot of controversy. It was protesting the Vietnam War, but that was like 25 years before, right? This stuff with Kamala is in the last 5-6 years. Right. It's all very recent, and which means, you know, when I'm not defending Bill Clinton but when something happened 25 years ago, it's not the same impact as if it happened 4 or 5. You understand what I mean? Because especially when someone was like in college then.
Yeah, you can always say I was young and I've changed or learned and grew up and,
the comments with Kamala, almost all of them, not all, but almost all of them have been from the time she's been a senator till now, a couple of them when she was attorney general. Okay, but so this is all recent stuff. So this was 2019. Now keep in mind, at the Democrat National Convention, Kamala Harris is there to get the nomination to run as the Democrat nominee for president of the United States. She wants to be the president of the United States of America, which is in conflict with what she says here. Listen, Kamala Harris, 2019.
First, let me just say, I strongly believe and take very seriously that we must acknowledge that the government of the United States stole land, took land from the tribes, and that there must be a restoration of that ownership for those lands that were possessed by the tribes. So that is a value I hold very dearly and very strong.
Okay, so it's a value she holds dearly and strong. So is she suggesting that if she were to become president of the United States, that she would sign over the United States territory to the Indian tribes?
I don't know.
First off,
I think she probably means a monetary.
It's always monetary.
Yeah.
You know, let me tell you guys, I don't know about the Indians in your town. Here in Florida, we have the Seminole tribe of Florida. And by the way, they call themselves Indians, not Native Americans. They own smoke shops and casinos throughout the state of Florida, and they are rich. Every Seminole receives each month thousands and thousands of dollars in profit sharing from the casinos and the smoke shops without doing anything.
And if they don't pay taxes either.
They don't pay taxes if they live on the reservation.
Right.
If they live off the reservation, they pay taxes.
Right.
But, I mean, being a Seminole Indian, that sounds like a really good life. Okay. But this
I don't agree with this whole idea of people of today, particularly white people, but people of today have to make restitution for things that we had nothing to do with. If she wants to get some kind of restitution, then she should go to Europe and go to England, France, and Spain, because those are the countries that settled over here in Portugal, and they're the ones who took the land, not us. Okay, America wasn't even formed.
The United States
wasn't even an idea back then. It was the Europeans that took over the land. So make them pay for it.
And, you know, this is an interesting thing. Kamala Harris, who grew up in Canada, why is it always the United States that has to give our country back to the Indians? What about Canada? You know, all these South Americans, they're not Incas or Mayans.
Yeah.
They're of European descent too.
That's right. They're all Spanish.
So why doesn't Mexico, Central and South America have to give their land back to the Incas and Aztecs?
And what about all the people coming into our land now? I mean, why is she allowing people to colonize us?
Exactly. It's so.
I mean, they've allowed 18
stupid.
million people to colonize us.
Yeah.
Illegally.
We're being taken over.
I mean,
that's
kind of hypocritical.
It's so bizarre to me that talk even happens. And so far as Indians, Native Americans, and the United States land, there are very few people in the world who are occupying lands that they're indigenous to going back to the beginning of time. Right. Very few. The Jews in Israel, because God gave the land of Israel to the Jews, so that they're indigenous, and they don't recognize that, right? The Bible tells us that, right? But they don't acknowledge that. Many of the Africans, but even the Africans have migrated through the continent and, may not be indigenous to the part of Africa they're in today. I don't know, are the Japanese people indigenous to the island of Japan? I don't know.
It's so stupid, this whole idea that we have to pay for the sins of our fathers.
Or give the country back to
Indians.
Indians.
So ridiculous. I mean, my family wasn't even here until the early 20th century.
And the the Muslims that are in North Africa, if Africa is if the indigenous of Africa are black, what about all these Muslims in North Africa that make up the Middle East and all that? Right. Should they have to give up their?
It's ridiculous.
It's only the United States that they want to pay. It's only the United States that they want to give the land back. None of these other countries. No. It cracks me up. And this is
stupid.
This is amazing. So just 5 years ago, she's saying that we have to give that America's land was stolen. We have to give it back to the tribes. And I can't tell you how many people claim to be Indians that are not. I guess we got DNA testing now. But how would you even determine, let's just say we decide, okay, we're going to give the United States back to the Indian tribes. How would you even determine who the tribes are and what land they would get, and how they would divide it up? Because they were a nomadic people.
Right.
So they didn't own land, right? They just wandered the earth. It's just, but I love this, and this would be another great commercial. She wants to be president so she can give America back to the Indians.
She just really just says things. I mean,
well, I
don't think she even knows what she says half the time. Even remembers it.
Obviously, she's talking to some Indian group.
Yeah,
and she's telling them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Now this was nuts.
It's like reparations. They've talked about that forever. And then when it came down to the wire in California, Newsom's like, sorry, we don't have the money for it. And that was dead in the water.
Exactly.
It's just one of those things they say to get people to vote for him, and white man bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a
way to
bizarre.
It's a way to manipulate minority groups to make the white man evil. The white man is the cause of all of their problems. And if we can that's what they do. We villainize the white man
and the Jews,
and just vote for us
and the Jews. Well, Kamala Harris, these clips that come out of her, sometimes you can tell based on who she's talking to. You could just tell. Like this one here, you heard the applause. Kamala Harris tells whatever group she's speaking to at any particular time exactly what they want to hear.
Yeah, she does.
So she really stands for nothing. So then today, I got two clips here from two different CNN stories. CNN doing some very strange stories today for CNN. They're actually doing maybe some real reporting. They're talking to voters, and I'm not even going to explain this. It explains itself. I couldn't believe this was on CNN. In fact, I saw this on X, and I went back and watched it. I was like, is this real? Is this like Babylon Bee? But no, this was actually CNN. Listen.
That Sarkone plans to vote for Trump is a big change. She backed Haley in the caucuses, and when we first met a year ago,
what about Bernie Carmel?
Sarkone said she would vote for Biden if 2024 ended up as a 2020 rematch. But grocery prices are still high, she says, and her real estate business is slow.
I would describe myself as being resigned, I suppose, to voting for Donald Trump. Again, I can't vote for the status quo, and I was absolutely better off during Donald Trump's presidency than I am today.
That's right. I say Kamala Harris, you say?
I'd say far left. I'd say woke. I'd say sidestepping. I'd say not truthful.
Okay. Yep. Now, she doesn't like Kamala.
She left out drunk, too.
Yeah, but she's not a big fan of Trump, but she's voting for Trump out of survival.
This is what you have to do is And Trump even says, you don't have to like me.
That's
he
right.
doesn't expect people to like him all the time. But it's not about whether you like him or not. It's about how your life is. And too many people vote based on personality.
Yeah.
And they get caught up in that. And by the way, there's nothing likable about Kamala. I'm sorry.
No, that's for sure.
But this, like she said, I've resigned to the fact, meaning she's basically doing it because she has no choice because her life is so crappy right now.
Well, this woman here is doing what Trump said. She's voting her stomach.
Yeah, exactly.
She can't afford
Nobody
any
can.
more of this with the Democrats. It's ridiculous. And you know, it's an interesting thing because if you watch the last really month, you're seeing more and more people coming out, like this thing Don Lemon did in Atlantic City, saying they're voting for Trump. People that are lifelong Democrats, they don't like Trump. They don't agree with much of anything, but people naturally are selfish, and it's about self-preservation.
Well, I don't think
I can't afford to live.
Like with her, I don't think they have a choice. And I think everybody says they were better under Donald Trump. And that's true. Everybody was. Whether you like the guy or not, that's a fact.
Yeah.
For everybody, the country was doing better.
And this woman's in the real estate business. Yeah. And because of interest rates and everything, people are not buying real estate.
Because the Fed raised the interest rate. I mean, we almost bought a house. Last year, we were going to move to a really nice house that was going to be built brand new because we've never had a new house.
No.
But it was actually cheaper than what our house is worth because of the location, because we're closer to the ocean. And we were all excited about it. If Donald Trump had been in office, we probably would have bought that house.
I haven't picked out the lot.
But Emily went to look at it. We went multiple times. We almost signed the contract. And then we got down to the numbers, and the interest rate at the time was 8.5%. And we pay like 4%. And you and I were like, this is too much, you know? And I said, if it was 6 or less, maybe. But that stopped us from buying the house. And the realtor tried to convince us, well, the interest rates will go down. And I said to you, as long as Biden's in office, I'm not buying anything. I mean, not until Trump's in, because you're just. Mm-hmm. And so that guy lost the sale, and I'm sure it's happening all around with people waiting. They're just waiting to buy homes because it's not a good time.
Now, then CNN went and talked to another woman who's a voter in Iowa.
I see Kamala and I see Walsh as being so far left that it concerns me. I'm comfortable with Trump. We had 4 years of Trump. We know what Trump is.
Exactly.
I'm not voting for him to be my Valentine. I'm not voting for him to be my best friend.
Okay, now that's interesting because that was the same story. It was John King interviewed both of those ladies. And I really don't know how to make sense of CNN doing a story with two women who are voting for Trump.
Well, it's interesting what she said we know what kind of president he was. Yeah. And he was a good president. There were no wars, and they can compare. Back then, it was so close in time. People remember how cheap gas was, how cheap food was.
Yeah.
And they remember, things were a lot better under him. So that's where I'm going, because the alternative, the problem with Kamala, well, she has many problems, but one of the problems is she was vice president. So she's attached to Biden and his horrible policies. If she had come out of just being a senator, she wouldn't win the nomination. But say she did, she wouldn't have that baggage of being attached, because Trump keeps saying, you're in the administration now. Why, these are your problems.
That's right. I really got to wonder, because this is a really confusing thing. First, let's just finish up on this CNN thing. Why is CNN doing a story?
I don't know.
CNN, I have never seen them do a story that is during the Democrat convention of voters, especially female voters. These are those suburban women they're always talking about, of suburban women and working moms who are saying they're not voting for the Democrat, that they're going to vote for the Republican.
It's crazy.
I don't know what CNN's agenda is here.
I don't
Do you
either.
have any ideas?
Well,
does that make sense to anyone?
They helped get rid of Biden from that debate, so I don't know what's going on.
Something weird is going on at CNN.
Because we know they're connected to the deep state.
They are definitely CIA. CNN is CIA. There's no getting around. So I have no idea what the game plan is over here at CNN. Why are they doing all this? I mean, I'm happy they're doing it. It's a good. They're doing something good by exposing this, but I just can't quite make sense of why.
Yeah, no, I can't either.
Well, if you all in the audience that are listening have any ideas why CNN would do stories like this out of the blue for the first time ever, let me know in the comments, because I usually have an opinion on why everybody's doing everything. This one is so counter to what they would normally do. They're actually interviewing women who are voting for Trump, and the women are desperate. They're like, well, to survive, we've got to vote for Trump. We can't survive with the Democrats. And so I can't make sense of that. But I'll tell you this. This Democrat convention is a disaster, okay? It's a complete disaster for them. And the reason it's a disaster is they have 100,000 Muslim terrorist supporters that are showing up in Chicago. And Chicago,
it's going to be a mess.
Is having a big problem right now because all the police are at the convention. The rest of the city is being looted.
Why would they have the convention there? That is such a stupid
big Democrat
decision.
Town.
There's so much
most
crime.
Dangerous city in America.
I mean, that's just the dumbest thing to choose that kind of. Why not have it in Orlando or Miami? Well, no, Miami's pretty red, but Orlando's blue.
Yeah.
It's a big city.
Why, Kathy?
I don't get it.
Some big Democrats, party bosses are getting paid. That's
stupid.
Why. But the rest of the city, they don't have police now. So the city is being,
and they can
looted,
easily bus
a lot of crime
to protest. It's a very central location.
Well,
in the country, it's kind of in the middle part.
Yeah.
If they had it I just think that's a dumb idea to have it there.
If I were the Democrats, I would have probably had it like in Hawaii.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they can't bus people there. It's a little more difficult. Or Guam or something. Or Puerto Rico.
That would have been better.
But 100,000 Muslims have just driven there from Michigan.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
That,
pretty close.
It's almost like they want to. And last night at the opening event, they had like a party. Some of the Hamas supporters just jumped up on the stage, took the mic, and took over the meeting.
Wow. Well, remember when Trump tried to do a rally in Chicago? The same thing happened.
He canceled it.
People came on the stage, took over. There are a bunch of thugs there. That's a dangerous city.
These are the
you can't
Muslim supporters.
You can't have a convention there at all.
And
it's crazy.
And inside the convention, they have a lot of delegates that represent over 700,000 voters that are Muslim and Muslim supporters, and they are not voting for Kamala. So the entire Democrat Party
who are they voting
for? Who knows? We don't know. They haven't said. They're undeclared. So the entire Democrat Party is really under siege from this group of people. And what's happened to the Democrat Party? It started with AOC. Okay, when AOC first came into Congress with the squad, the Democrat Party has been hijacked by their radical fringe activists, okay? Like they have these mobile abortion clinics. I thought that was a joke when I first heard it at the convention.
And vasectomy.
So maybe
They're a bunch of baby haters.
So maybe what CNN is doing is they want the Democrat Party to have a defeat so they can cleanse themselves of these radicals, so they can say, okay, we got to get the party to be more reasonable.
Maybe.
And get control of the party again.
That's a possibility. That is a possibility.
And that's really a strong possibility here, because if they don't cleanse themselves of having these activists bullying the party around, that party is going to disappear. Now, I'm fine with the Democrat Party fading away. They're a very destructive party. I mean, here you got Kamala Harris wants to give America back to the Indians, okay? So, I don't mind the Democrat Party collapsing, but the leadership of the Democrat Party, they're going to try to save the party. And to do that, they're going to cleanse themselves of these radical lunatics. But the problem is that everyone in the Democrat Party is radical. This country is very conservative, much more conservative than people realize. And it's not just because of Trump. It's in large part because of Trump. But it's also because of the lockdown period. When people were locked down, I think it frightened the living daylights out of Americans at how powerful our governors and our police are. People weren't allowed to leave their homes. People couldn't go to work, the whole thing, right? And there's been a lot of blowback from that. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that, people said, hey, the government has too much power over us. And they've started to realize, and the Trump factor too is a big part of it, but they have been red-pilled, especially in these last 4 years, because, I'll tell you this, as bad as everything is going now, right, in the economy, this is how it normally is with all the presidents. Nothing gets done. The government is just a piggy bank for them to pay off themselves and the donors, and the country is always a wreck. I mean, if you guys remember George W. Bush, the last few months of his presidency, gas was $4.25 a gallon.
Trump is the only guy that was in office.
That was a long time ago, too.
That really got things done.
That's right.
And got and actually delivered.
That's why they hate him.
On promises and got the gas. I mean, gas had not been that low probably since the early 90s. Down, it was like $1.80.
I paid $1.57 on Inauguration Day.
Yeah, I mean $1.50. That's crazy. And everything was so much cheaper, and people were doing well and making more money, and overall, everybody was. And because he's a businessman and he knows how to run a business. What does Kamala know how to run? Nothing. I mean, I'm terrified if she wins.
She knows how to.
She is a disaster.
Kamala, what she knows how to run, she knows how to run around with married men and have affairs. That's what she knows.
That's true.
Now, I want to talk about Mike Lindell. Mike Lindell was with the president all weekend. He was with him at New Jersey at the press conference the other day and everything else.
I'd like to see him run for governor of Minnesota.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
I think that's an opportunity he needs to grab onto because the people there clearly are not happy with what's going on.
Absolutely. And, Mike Lindell at MyPillow is one of the very few places where prices have actually gone down. And I know you hear all these low prices. You can save up to 80% off with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Many of the top MyPillow products are just $25, right? You can get the MyPillow that started off for under $20 now with our promo code Kane, and free shipping on orders over $75. And the reason that the prices are so low is because he got canceled from all these big retailers, Walmart, Kohl's, all these stores. You know the list. So the price that he is offering now to customers is the wholesale price.
I can't believe how low the prices are, and the quality is exactly the same.
It's the same pillow
because we've ordered stuff since then.
Well, what you're paying is what Walmart would pay.
Yeah.
Okay, and Walmart's the biggest buyer, so they get to pay the lowest. Now, the MyPillow is just under $20, and I still have the first one we got. The first MyPillow we got was before Mike Lindell was sponsoring the program, so we didn't have a promo code. We paid full price. It was $65. Yeah. And now you can get it for under $20. And what you're getting is the Walmart wholesale price. That's why the prices are so low. With our promo code Kane, Kane at checkout. And remember, when you use that promo code Kane, you're not just getting great products from MyPillow that will last you for years.
Yeah.
But you're also supporting the great Mike Lindell, his employees. He's laid no one off through all of this. And you're supporting all the content that I bring you. The podcast here with Kathy, my YouTube channel, as well as the radio show with Steve Kane. Every time you use that promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. My name is Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We're going to take a quick break and be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
From author Liam Gold comes an epic adventure where destiny, courage, and wisdom come alive in Sands of Destiny. In ancient Egypt, you'll meet Prince Thutmose. He uncovers ancient secrets and faces trials that will test his courage and his resolve. Sands of Destiny is a story about transformation where every discovery brings the prince closer to a legacy that will inspire generations. Sands of Destiny will transport you to a world filled with mystical intrigue and timeless themes. If you're a fan of historical fiction, love adventure, and have an interest in the timeless allure of ancient Egypt, this is your next must-read book. Begin your journey today with Sands of Destiny from author Liam Gold, available on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited. This is your chance to experience the adventure that will leave you breathless and inspired. Sands of Destiny on Amazon. Have you ever wondered what lies beyond our world? Or felt a connection with something or someone beyond our physical realm? If you're a fan of John Lennon or curious about the mysteries of life after death, you will not want to miss the new audio docudrama, John Lennon in Heaven. Linda Keen's intuitive abilities have been with her since she was a child and took a dramatic turn when she used meditation to explore the astral plane. There she had a transcendental encounter with none other than John Lennon. Producer Adam Prince takes you on Linda's incredible journey and uncovers the story of her extraordinary experiences in John Lennon in Heaven. If you love the film What Dreams May Come, or are captivated by stories of the afterlife and the enduring legacy of John Lennon, you will want to add John Lennon in Heaven to your playlist. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and wherever you get your podcast. You can also find the music featured at the end of each episode on Spotify under Beyond Abbey, and immerse yourself in the journey and discover what lies beyond. John Lennon in Heaven. Start listening today. Are you looking for the perfect paper bag for any and every occasion? Whether it's shopping, gifting, weddings, retail, or parties, Jet Paper Bags on Etsy has exactly what you're looking for. Jet Paper Bags on Etsy offers versatile paper bags with handles that are not just stylish, but they're durable and eco-friendly too. Jet Paper Bags are perfect for the food service industry, coffee shops, bakeries, takeout, even your DIY projects. They're available in a range of sizes and classic colors like brown and white. Jet Paper Bags on Etsy has something for everyone. You can also customize your bags with their top-notch custom printing service. It adds that special touch for your business or special event. Jet Paper Bags is committed to quality. That's made them one of the best-known paper bag manufacturers in the United States. They've got the perfect bag for your needs, and they're just a click away. Online at jetpaperbags.etsy.com. That's jetpaperbags.etsy.com. When you visit the shop, you'll find the perfect paper bag for your next project or event. jetpaperbags.etsy.com. Paper bags for every occasion. Natalie moved to New York to get away from bad decisions. But when she met Daniel, she knew this was a bad decision she couldn't resist. From author Eleanor Stevenson comes a romance that will pull at your heartstrings and heat up your nights. Swan Song, a steamy, grumpy boss romance, available on Amazon. In Swan Song, love and desire collide, and hearts are forever changed. When Daniel Swan entered her life, he brought with him a love she never knew she needed, a love that taught her more about herself than she could ever have imagined. Life doesn't always follow the script. It's filled with surprises that challenge us to open our hearts to new possibilities. Swan Song, a steamy, grumpy boss romance from author Eleanor Stevenson, is available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, hardcover, and Kindle Unlimited. This book is perfect for your book club. Order your copy right now. Swan Song, a steamy, grumpy boss romance on Amazon.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. So Tim Walz was speaking to a group of Democrats in Chicago, and they did a big introduction for him. Listen to this introduction. This guy has a lot of nerve. Listen.
I am so excited and so proud to welcome our vice presidential candidate, soon to be nominee for vice president, Command Master Sergeant. I'm going to start with the title that is very important to me. The Command Sergeant Major, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. Very well beloved governor. And he's also the state champion. Yes. State champion football coach. And now our joyful warrior. Please welcome Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota. Thank you.
I mean, he's still having people introduce him as Command Sergeant Major after all this stolen valor.
No, that's what liberals do.
He's still going with that.
Yeah. He's the joyful warrior, too. They're running on joy. Well, if it's anything like Joy Reid or Joy Behar, I want nothing to do with it.
It's pretty bad. Joy
doesn't have the same meaning,
Joyless
I guess,
Reid, they call her.
Oh my goodness!
This guy,
gracious.
Tim Walz is in a lot of trouble because they are going to lose, and when they lose, people are going to start looking into him.
JD Vance is going to mop the floor with
Oh,
her, wipe the floor, whatever, take him to the woodshed, whatever you want
at
to
the
call
debate.
it. That is going to be, I believe, probably the highest rated VP debate ever because JD Vance outclasses this guy on every front. And everything he says, he's going to bring up the stolen valor. And that is something you cannot run away from. He's built his whole career on lying about his rank and what he did. And that is so shameful.
And the football coach thing. Like, he's the head coach that
he
went
was
to
the defensive coordinator, okay? I don't even know if that's officially a coach, but that's what he was, a defensive coordinator.
He acts like he was the head coach.
You're on the coaching staff. But I don't know if that's like, I don't know that much about football, but I know Dan Marino was a quarterback. He consulted or whatever, the coordinator for the quarterbacks for the Dolphins. I don't hear people say Coach Marino. I could be wrong, but I don't. It's just I don't. know.
He acts like he was the head coach,
but he went around like he was the head
that
coach.
took them to the championship. And
everything
he still does
this guy talks about in his life, he pads his resume. Just pads his resume.
Well, people that are pathological liars like Tim Walz. I guess you say it Waltz. She said Waltz.
Walz.
I thought it was Walz.
It's Walz.
She said Waltz.
Well, she pronounced it wrong like Kamala, so she's a racist,
Yeah,
I guess.
I guess.
Are you racist if you pronounce a white guy's name wrong or just if it's a black woman?
What compulsive liars do, like Tim Walz, is they take a little bit of truth and embellish it to give credibility to the lie. His entire resume is padded. The only thing she said about him that was truthful is his name, and which she mispronounced, and that he's the governor of Minnesota. Everything else was like. Now, I do want to mention, because I don't want to forget, Phil Donahue died.
Yeah.
And there's an interview that he did with Donald Trump way back in the 80s. It's circulating.
I used to watch the show every day.
Yeah,
in the 80s, that was the show to watch.
When I was out of school for the summers, I used to watch Phil Donahue every day.
Yeah.
And Phil Donahue.
Yeah, when I was out of school, I'd watch it.
His show, he was pretty liberal, but I was a kid. I really didn't know about all that as much then when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
But
his show was good.
You say that, but I saw some clips today.
Really?
It was never good.
But at the time it was. You can't judge it by today. Your attention span is about 3 minutes.
No, it's not that.
And that's how it is with people now. They're used to TikTok and Twitter. And
no, it's not the attention
span. It was a different
span.
time. You could actually sit still for an hour.
No, it's not that, Kathy. It's the way he talked and carried himself. He was a very weird guy on that
Well, then why was he so popular? Everybody loved him.
You know why? Because we only had 3 channels, and we didn't have a lot to choose from.
Well, I guess.
And a lot of things were very popular because we only had 3 channels, and that was it. And Phil Donahue though was huge.
Absolutely, and he everybody copied him,
and he did do controversial issues.
Yeah,
and had guests, and would go into the studio audience and things like that.
Yeah, it was good.
It was. I remember liking the show.
So many shows were spawned from that. You had Oprah, Geraldo,
all of them.
Sally Jesse,
all those shows.
Jenny Jones, which I liked, Ricky Lake. That was the era, the 80s and the 90s was the era of that kind of talk show where you had a panel, Maury Povich, Jerry Springer, all of that. And then you'd have a host walk around the audience, and that was the thing that people watched. They were super popular.
Yeah, I love shows I used to watch all those shows, and I did like Donahue, but he went out really in a sad way. He broadcast, if I remember, he had the broadcast from New York. Had to be New York he broadcast from, maybe Chicago. Did he broadcast from Chicago or New York?
Oprah was in Chicago.
I think he was in New York. But maybe Chicago.
She was in Chicago. I don't know, maybe.
He's been off the air for so long. But he was nationally syndicated, and then he got taken off the local affiliate in the town in the city that he did the show in, whether it was New York or Chicago. I can't remember now. And that's when he went off the air. And then
that was the beginning of the end.
In the early days of MSNBC, they put Phil Donahue on there, and he started doing a political show. This was like during the Chris Matthews era when Tim Russert was still alive. And he was doing a political show, and it didn't last very long. It just didn't last long. And he really hasn't done anything, it seems like, for 30 years. I mean,
and his wife has
Marlo Thomas
destroyed her face. I don't even.
That's for sure.
I saw a Lifetime Christmas movie with her last year, and
she's
she looked
200
like
years
she
old,
was wearing a
Kathy.
mask.
She's
and
200.
and it was a scary mask. She's added jaw implant. I mean, I sent a picture to my mother, and she just could not believe what she looked like. Just Google her. You see her on her commercials, and she was a very pretty lady when she was younger. Women should not go this crazy messing with their face. You know, maybe a facelift when you're 60 and that's about it. But these women go nuts with the jaw implants and the chin implants, and they end up looking like Mickey Rourke's character in Sin City. I mean, they just look awful. They look like a Dick Tracy character. And I literally looked at her like she was wearing a scary mask. I mean, she didn't even look human. I don't understand women. I think you go down that rabbit hole and you just can't help yourself. Like Madonna, I mean, you could bounce a quarter off her face. It's so tight. She looks ridiculous.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with that. I saw a picture of Diane Keaton the other day. I like her. She's a good actress. And she has had no work done. Same with Jamie Lee Curtis. I think they look fantastic. I really do. I think that women that just let themselves age, I'm sure I'm in the minority on this, and I think they look much better than these women that have been poked and pulled and Botoxed, like Nicole Kidman. She's unrecognizable. I mean, she looks such a weirdo, and she's only like 56. What's she going to look like in 20 years? My goodness, anyway.
So
getting off topic, sorry.
So the Democrats are just destroying Chicago, and
they're doing that every day.
And of course, they vandalized the Trump building in Chicago and put Project 2025, put something on about Orange Man and all this stuff.
Please.
And this is the thing about the Democrat Party that I understand this stuff's being reported. Okay, and I'm not saying that these things are not being reported because they are being widely reported. But the context and the significance is not being discussed. The Democrats put a wall up around the entire convention center to protect the convention from their own supporters and constituents outside. The city of Chicago, the neighborhoods around the convention have boarded up like a hurricane is coming to protect the businesses from being vandalized by the Democrat constituents that are showing up. The Democrats are vandalizing the entire city. They did the Trump Tower is not the only thing they did, the Trump building. They've been vandalizing things all over the city.
Kamala's nervous. I think she's scared to death.
The thing about what's going on in Chicago right now, vandalism and violence, it's all being done by Democrats. And like I say, all this stuff's being reported, and there's many more things too. The pallets of bricks that have been on the street, all this stuff.
Oh my goodness.
And even though it's all being reported, no one's putting in context. Well, wait a minute. This is the party that actually thinks people should vote for them and put them in power. They come and have their political convention in Chicago, and their constituents are terrorizing the city. They're trying to bully their representatives in the Democrat Party. How can you put these anarchists, because the Democrat Party is really officially an anarchist party, in charge? And
because they're all deranged.
The news isn't talking about putting this in perspective.
I mean, Democrats are just evil, deranged people that are totally out of touch with real life.
But around the country, I don't think people have put into context how out of control the Democrats are. In the 1968 Democrat convention, okay, they had big outburst. That was a different situation. What happened then is the delegates were trying to go around and nominate someone that the voters didn't want. Bobby Kennedy had been killed. There was a lot of controversy, and the Democrat Party and the primary voters were very anti-war. It was the war in Vietnam.
Oh yeah, that was a contentious time for sure.
And then Bobby Kennedy was killed, who was expected to get the nomination. And then at the convention, they nominated a pro-Vietnam War candidate, and that's why there was such outrage at the convention. What the outrage at this convention,
we just saw a movie like that.
Yeah, what the outrage at this convention is about is you have anti-Semites that are terrorizing the Democrats at the convention because they think, and this is crazy, they think that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are too pro-Israel. They're anti-Israel, but being anti-Israel isn't enough. You got to want to push Israel into the sea, or they get this way. All of this is not Antifa or BLM. These are pro-Hamas protesters that are there. And here we are approaching 23 years after 9/11. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. I just was coincidentally watching an interview with a woman who was on the 93rd floor of one of the towers when the attack happened, and she's alive. She escaped.
Oh, my goodness.
Everybody else in her office was killed.
How did she get away?
When it happened, she went down the fire escape and she got out, luckily. And
they told everybody to stay where they were like idiots. And the building collapsed.
It was an amazing interview. And, here we are 23 years later, and the people that were cheering in the streets in the Palestinian communities are now what the Democrat Party has called their constituency. I mean, this is crazy. Some of them are in the
government.
Yeah. And
Talib, Omar.
And many of them are delegates in the convention. So this goes back to what we were talking about in the first segment. See, the more we talk about what's going on, I stick to my thing that CNN is working to try to cleanse the Democrat Party of these lunatics.
They see the writing on the wall.
I
think you're right on that.
In all political parties, there's always activists who are more extreme than most, okay? Even in the Republican Party, okay? There's and in what happens in primaries is the politicians in primaries cater to the activists, because activists are more like the activists, they're more likely to vote in the primaries. And then in the general elections, they get more conservative, even Democrats in the past. And today, the Democrat Party has been so radicalized because of Obama. This is all Obama's doing. And Obama seemed to be a big do-nothing president in his 8 years. But what we're experiencing now in Chicago is what I'll call the Obama effect. And I think it's pretty well known that's what it is. What they're doing to Joe Biden today is insane. They have him speaking on the first day. That's like the worst time. They're insulting Biden by having him there today. Yeah. It's a big insult.
Well, Trump said if they got him there on Monday, he said that, what was the phrase he used? That was the death something. He said that's like
it's a dead time. Nobody watches
like that. He said, that's like nobody watches that day.
Well, no, and he's
not at his rally though. Trump was there, and I thought convention. I thought the RNC convention was the best one I'd ever seen, and I think people will see a stark difference between that and this one. This one is going to be scary and really weird.
No. The next Republican convention, Trump will be at the end of his second term, right? And Trump's got some more conventions ahead of him. Trump will be at every convention.
No, I know, but this last one was the best one I've seen so far.
Yeah, Trump will be at every convention that the Republicans have for the rest of his life. And you will see that every time he goes to a convention, when he shows up, it's going to be a big to-do. All of them, okay? Mm-hmm. And Melania, too, and Don Jr. But Donald Trump will be honored at it. He'll be at every convention for the rest of his life. He'll be... What they're doing with Joe Biden, I have never seen, and he's the sitting president, I've never seen a president so slighted at their own party's convention. It's unheard of. I was reading an article today that Jill Biden she's having meltdowns. She feels so betrayed. She's going to go back to teaching.
She'll get some big job at some university.
Yeah.
Teaching, I'm sure.
Yeah, something like that. But I read this article today from people in her orbit, whoever those people are, a bunch of weirdos, but that she feels totally betrayed by everyone they've ever known.
He stepped down. He didn't have to do it, but something happened and he changed he stepped down. They scared him or something.
No, she was what they did when you hear Trump and them talk about a coup, Biden's out of it mentally. We all know this. What they did was very slick. Jill Biden was over in France for the Olympics, and Obama called Joe when he was in Washington, and Jill was not there. She was in France for the Olympics, and they surrounded him and did it when she
wasn't around.
That's correct. That's correct. They took advantage of his being alone without her and his mental problems and deficiencies, and she knows exactly what they did.
Yeah, because I don't think she would have let that happen.
No. So if you look at it in that context, it's a pretty crazy thing. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. If you're a Patreon supporter, remember to go to the Patreon page. Kathy and I post a lot of things there we do not post anywhere else. And all Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of each and every podcast episode. Our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on each episode. The names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Richard, Alice, K-Mac, Rick, Wesley, Macho, Nick, Mike P, John, Paulette, Carlos, Rob and Trish Wilkerson, John S, Christy R, Brandon, George, Constance, LeeZep, and Shawna. These are our top Patreon supporters. And if you would like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this and every episode to our Patreon page. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
Are you ready to transform your life and align with God's purpose? Then order your copy of the book from author Gary S. Park, Unlocking Your Faith, Seeking God's Purpose, A Journey of Faith, Overcoming Life's Challenges, and Embracing Spiritual Growth. In this inspiring book, the author takes readers on a transformative journey, shifting your focus from self to living with God. You'll unlock profound insights on embracing the teachings of the Word of God and discover how to infuse your daily life with spiritual meaning and purpose. With Unlocking Your Faith, you'll learn the essential elements of nurturing a robust prayer life and how to cultivate a mindset anchored in faith and positivity. You'll also gain valuable insights into the power of community and fellowship in strengthening your spiritual journey. Unlocking Your Faith, Seeking God's Purpose, A Journey of Faith, Overcoming Life's Challenges, and Embracing Spiritual Growth from author Gary S. Park is the book you've been waiting for. It's available on Amazon and the author's website, GarySPark.com. That's S as in Samuel. Order your copy right now. Are you looking for eco-friendly fashion that doesn't compromise on style? Then check out Mendis.com. That's MENDISS, where fashion meets sustainability. At Mendis.com, they're all about sustainable fashion. They offer classic designs that are made from lightweight, eco-friendly fabrics, with made-on-demand t-shirts and ultimate comfort hoodies. They're soft, stylish, and have practical pouch pockets. They're perfect for everyone and every occasion. They're soft, sustainable, durable, and reliable. You will feel the difference each and every time you wear them. The fabrics are as soft as they are durable, giving you ultimate comfort while caring for the planet at the same time. Their motto is, Unity is Power. Mendis is more than just a brand. It's a movement of collective responsibility in making sustainable choices. Join the Mendis community and make a positive impact through sustainable fashion choices. Mendis.com, where fashion meets sustainability. Mendis.com. Have you been searching and searching for the perfect action figure or toys? Your search is over with Eduardo's Toy Co. on Mercari.com. Eduardo's Toy Co. is passionate about making people happy with toys. They have everything you're looking for, from the WWE to the DC Multiverse, Harley Quinn, and much, much more. There's something for every collector and lover of toys at Eduardo's Toy Co. on Mercari.com. Need gaming electronics? They've got that too, like the Sony PSP 1000. All the prices are fair and nothing is ever overpriced. You'll also find unmatched friendliness and communication. If you have any questions or can't find what you're looking for, feel free to message Eduardo anytime and he'll get right back to you. They're perfect for gift shopping too. Visit Eduardo's Toy Co. on Mercari.com. Just go to Mercari.com and search Eduardo's Toy Co. That's Eduardo's Toy Co. on Mercari.com. Start shopping right now. Are you a restaurant owner or chef who wants to upgrade your kitchen without breaking the bank? Then check out Auction Factory Tennessee, your destination for top brand restaurant equipment at unbeatable prices. Auction Factory Tennessee specializes in brand new inventory and expertly restored repossessions. Whether you're building the commercial kitchen of your dreams or just need a few upgrades, Auction Factory Tennessee have you covered. And the best part, you can bid and win from the comfort of your own home or restaurant. Imagine saving thousands thousands of dollars on premium equipment. Auction Factory Tennessee have everything you're looking for, from ovens and fryers to refrigeration units, and that's just the beginning. Over the next month, Auction Factory Tennessee is offering over $1 million worth of brand new merchandise. Auction Factory Tennessee has been helping businesses just like yours for over 2 decades. Auction Factory Tennessee auctions are happening right now, featuring everything you need to outfit your kitchen with the very best. Take your restaurant to the next level and go to auctionfactory.com, and under auctions, click Tennessee. That's auctionfactory.com, and under auctions, click Tennessee for Auction Factory Tennessee, producing auction perfection.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. So, J.D. Vance, he was talking about Tim Walz today. Listen.
Before the end of the campaign, Tim Walz is going to be talking about how he was...
Oh, no, he said Waltz. JD said Waltz. So I guess it's Waltz. The other lady said it right.
Kamala.
Yeah,
I mean, you know.
Listen, in 80-some days, we're not going to have to say Walt's name again.
Trump's easy to say and easy to remember.
Before the end of the campaign, Tim Walz is going to be talking about how he was carrying an M16 through the jungles of Vietnam. But this guy, everything that comes out of his mouth about his military service is at least 25% a lie. And, you know, it occurred to me, the closest Tim Walz has ever come to combat, even though he says he carried a weapon in war, the closest Tim Walz has ever come to combat is when he let rioters burn Minneapolis to the ground a few years ago, right?
Yeah, you know, President Trump, when he picked J.D. Vance, that was a good pick. And, you know, I didn't know too much about him. You know, I mean, I knew who he was and his, you know, his story a little bit. And I did know that he was like really close friends with Don Jr. and Don Jr. liked him, which means he's okay. But this pick for vice president for Trump is so important because they are likely to be the nominee in 2028. So it was such a good pick. It was such an important pick. And we had some people over the last couple of years that we thought it would be. DeSantis, then we had the betrayal, Kristi Noem, and then she had that Puppygate thing. She's done, you know. And who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And I've been watching J.D. Vance pretty much every time he speaks in the last 2 weeks. And he is pretty amazing. So Trump made the right choice. It's, you know, we're very lucky, by the way, that DeSantis showed his hand early last year and ran against Trump, because if DeSantis would not have run against Trump, he very likely could have been the next Republican president after Trump, and then we would have found out.
VP.
Oh my goodness, we'd have found out what a snake he was. And the story with Kristi Noem with the puppies, and I know everyone's going to say, you don't live on a farm, you don't know. When it comes to dogs, people in this country view dogs almost equally to humans, maybe above humans. And that thing with the puppies, when's the last time you've seen Kristi Noem?
Yeah, she's
was been
even
exiled.
Don Jr. said that.
And he hunts.
Yeah, he said her editor must not like her. He said, I don't know why she put that in her book. That's just dumb.
Yeah. So, you know, and I was getting kind of worried because our bench is not as deep as I thought it was. And then J.D. Vance comes along, it's not just that he's impressive, but he's very good. That was, you know, he wasn't going up against anyone there.
Well, you know, Trump didn't know they were going to choose Waltz.
No.
And so he's like the perfect pick to go up against that clown.
Oh, yeah, because the stolen
you couldn't
valor.
have asked for a better match right there.
But I've seen J.D. Vance go up against these liberal reporters a few times in the last couple of weeks, and he fillets them like a maestro. He's very good.
Yeah.
He's very good. You know, and it's not just because he's smart. A lot of smart people go to Harvard and Yale, and they're not good at debating.
Yeah, like DeSantis.
Yeah, exactly. And J.D. has a really good skill set, much like Trump, of debating with liberals. And Waltz is going to have a big, big problem in the debate. You know, both Waltz and Kamala Harris, the reason they don't talk to anyone is because both of them have too much to hide. there was a clip of her answering one question. You saw this at a campaign stop yesterday. She went to a restaurant, and I read an article about this today. Before she got there, her campaign went into the restaurant, cleared the whole thing out, and the customers inside are fake.
You know,
Trump
goes to a restaurant, and all the people go there to meet him, and he buys everybody lunch. Remember, he went to that Chick-fil-A, and he met that girl that spoke at his rally.
Yeah, Michaela.
And she was so excited to meet him, and she was just a customer there or working there or something. I think she was a customer. She didn't know he was going to be there, and he made a point of that. He said she did not know I was going to be here. They don't plan it or stage it. They just go in and show up. And then probably the owner knows they're coming, obviously, and probably tells their friends because the places are packed.
Well, sometimes they don't, because if they don't tell a place that he's coming, they don't need as much security in advance.
Oh, okay. So
sometimes they don't do that. And look what happened. Like this girl, Michaela, I don't think she works at Chick-fil-A anymore. She's like a professional, influencer, conservative influencer now. You know? Now, the Democrats, their official... This was insane. The official DNC platform was released today, and it has at least 5 mentions of Biden's second term in it. And it says, in President Biden's second term, he'll push Congress to do this. During President Biden's second term,
I don't get it.
They didn't update the platform.
Oh my gosh!
In President Biden's second term, he'll continue selecting judges. Blah blah blah. In President Biden's second term, he'll push Congress to pass legislation that is consistent with blah, blah, blah. The whole platform that they have released to the press and to all the delegates of the DNC talks about Biden's second term.
That's crazy.
And he dropped out like 3 weeks ago, a month ago.
Do you think
almost.
He's coming back?
You know, I would not be surprised, Kathy.
Some people have said that.
I would not be surprised.
That would be crazy.
And I'll tell you what would not.
She's awful. She's absolutely awful.
Well, it's been. I think it's been 3 weeks now since she picked Waltz. At least 2, maybe 2. It's been 2 or 3 weeks. I think this is the 3rd week.
Maybe that's why they're trashing her so much. Maybe they are. Or I don't know. I mean, who knows?
Well,
it's all mixed up.
The first 2 weeks since she picked Waltz, it was all defense on all of his scandals, right?
Yeah.
And starting on Friday, when she gave that, okay, we're going to nationalize the entire food industry from the farm to the grocery store.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Ever since then, nothing has happened but soundbite after soundbite of Kamala Harris saying things like, you know, America's on stolen Indian land, we got to give it back. Or I'm going to take patents away with the stroke of a pen.
Yeah, who's leaking all this stuff, and who leaked that she has problems with booze? Somebody's leaking this stuff, and I think it's the Democrats.
I agree with you. I think the
because
Democrats
there's no real source when you see it on X, but it gets around really quickly, and you don't really have like a source. Sometimes you do. You have a clip, but a lot of clips are being released and rumors now and things. A lot of bad. I mean, I don't see anything good.
Well, no, and since Friday, it's been non-stop releases of Kamala Harris saying crazy things. And then Saturday afternoon, this whole thing about her being an alcoholic started.
Yeah.
And you know what? There hasn't been a single person who's come to her defense and say, that's ridiculous. I know her. She does not drink, that much, There's been not one person has tried to defend her about the alcoholism, which indicates that it's true.
Let me ask you guys, because we just saw a video of her. She's got a thing with food. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't get it. But she's always talking about food. And she was explaining to somebody how she cooks a chicken, because that's so important. Do any of you guys baste chicken with cheap wine? I have never heard of basting chicken. Now, there might be some French dish where you cook wine in the sauce, okay? But she described how she puts butter under the skin, which people do put things and seasoning under the skin. I get that. And then she said you take a cheap bottle of wine and pour it over the chicken. I have never heard of anybody do. Is that a thing? Or does she just put wine in, or she just put wine in every, well, when you cook alcohol, it supposedly burns off the alcohol, but she might love wine so much she wants it in everything. Something I read the other day was that she really likes wine. She's a big wine drinker. So I'm just asking. I'm not really like a great cook or know that much about cooking. So I don't know. I know I have made beef dishes where you put like a little red wine in the sauce, like maybe beef bourguignon or something. I don't know. Or like I said, a lot of French dishes might have a little cup of wine you put in. But when you get a chicken ready to roast, this is what she was talking about, to cook in the oven, and you put salt and pepper and butter and whatever. Do you pour a bottle of wine on top of it? I would think it would dry that. I don't know. I've never heard of that before. Have you?
No. I don't like cooking with
And I don't think they do that in India either. Well, they don't eat chicken. I mean, what kind of an Indian is she?
They don't eat chicken in India? I don't know.
They're
about
vegan.
That.
I think Indians are all vegan, aren't they?
I don't think so. I don't know.
I think Hindus are vegan.
Are they?
Yeah, because they believe that your soul can go into an animal.
You know what? Let me ask you this. That's an interesting thing you bring up.
But she's eating chicken. What kind of a Hindu is she?
Is Kamala Christian or Hindu?
I don't. She's just I don't know what the hell.
Let me look up her Wikipedia, because sometimes it'll tell you
she was raised by her mother,
who's Indian,
who I'm assuming is Hindu. And I think Hindus are vegans, or they're supposed to be.
Let me see. Let me look at her bio. Okay, I found an article about this, okay? This is when she was first picked by Biden to be his running mate. It says here, Kamala Harris said in an interview with Interfaith Youth Corps that her faith journey started when she was young. On Sundays, my mother would dress my sister and me in our Sunday best and send us off to the Church of God in Oakland, California. And she sang in the children's choir. That's where I formed some of my earliest memories of the Bible's teachings. It's where I learned that faith is a verb and we must live it and show it in action. Her mother was Hindu, her father Christian. She grew up attending service. It doesn't say that she's Christian. She grew up attending services at a Black Baptist church and a Hindu temple. Okay, USA Today.
So it's like a
reported.
mixed faith.
She's not religious. I don't think she's religious. I don't think she has a religion. You know, that's an important thing, and I'll tell you why, okay? She is on the verge of getting the nomination for President of the United States from one of the major parties, the Democrat Party. And someone's religion is important for people in this country to know what it is. If they do have a religion, are they atheist? My guess would be she's atheist. You know, her father was a Marxist, and Marxists are atheist.
Okay, some Hindus are vegan. It's not a part of the... So I'm standing corrected here, which I am fine with that. Hinduism is I don't know anything about it. Hinduism is a plural religion, whatever that means, that includes many... words I don't know, some of which may be vegetarian or non-vegetarian. I know there's a lot of Indians when that's a big country. Well, so I guess it's not, I don't like Indian food. I've had it, and curry, I cannot eat. It makes me sick. It is the national food of England. I know that. They love it there. And I know a lot of people like Indian food. It's just not something I can eat.
Yeah. I've never had Indian
food. But I have no issues with Indian people or anything, or any kind of people.
Oh, I know a lot of Indian people.
But some are vegetarian, some are not.
I have known and know a lot of Indian people. They are all, except Kamala Harris, very nice people.
Very nice, very intelligent. But I've had some Indian doctors, and they're great. But yeah, she's the exception.
This, though, question about her religion had not occurred to me before. This is an important thing, because I don't care what her religion is, but I want to know what it is. And I think the American people should know. If she, and I think she should be called out and asked, do you accept Jesus as your Savior? These are important things to Americans. It doesn't mean you have to be Christian to be president, although we have not had a president who was not a Christian, okay? But America is a Christian Judeo country. Most people are Christian and Jews. There's other religions here, but people have a right to know. My guess is she's atheist.
Yeah, that's my guess too.
My guess is she's atheist. And
from my experience, you know, just from my personal experience, kids that grow up in a multi-faith family are more prone to atheism. Instead of, you know, our daughter was raised Catholic because we converted when she was like 8 or 9, and she was confirmed in the Catholic Church.
And we made sure that she
by the bishop,
confirmed.
by the way, and she's Catholic. She still considers herself Catholic. And that's good. I'm glad. But I don't know if you're raised in a religious family. Are you more prone to be not religious? Because
yes,
you know what I mean.
Well, Kathy, but there's a difference.
Like my mom made me go to church, and I grew up very religious.
But you know what?
She made me go to the Anglican church every week,
no matter
what.
A lot of people that are Christians and Jews in this country, they may not be religious, but they're still a Christian. They're still a Jew. They believe in it. They just don't practice it. They don't worship. They don't pray, but they still consider themselves to be.
If you grew up in a multi-religious home, did you lean towards one or neither?
But if she's atheist, people need to know, because
she'd never admit that.
You can find out. It's possible to find out. And I'll tell you what I mean by all this, okay? You know, I don't like atheists. Atheists creep me out. And I've given a couple of examples of this. The one that really, really upset me was Ricky Gervais, the British comedian. I was a big fan of Ricky Gervais. You know, the British version of The Office. He did that show Extras on HBO. He did that show with the guy that played Wicket and Return of the Jedi, the little guy that was the Ewok.
Warwick Davis.
That was a great show. And I always liked Ricky Gervais. And then he did this movie, which the History of Lying or something it was called. And then I found out he was an atheist. I don't watch his stuff anymore. And I was a big fan of his.
Bill Maher's an atheist, too.
Bill Maher's an atheist, and I don't care what anybody's religion is, but if you're looking to be president of the United States, I need to know. But people that are atheists really creep me out, and I don't. You
know what I found with atheists?
I don't want anything to do with atheists.
The ones I've seen, I don't know any personally in my life, but the ones I've seen on TV, they talk about God more than anybody. And I never understood that, because if they don't believe in God, like Bill Maher literally thinks God is a fairy tale and a fantasy.
It's crazy.
Then why does he talk about it in almost every interview he ever does? I don't talk about leprechauns and unicorns because they're not real. And I never even think about them because they're figments of your imagination and made up fairy tales. But for somebody who bashes Christianity so much, and he grew up Catholic Jewish, this is another one who grew up in a multi-religious home that has no religion. But he never misses an opportunity to bash Christians, to bash Jesus, God. He thinks we're all psychotic and crazy and schizophrenic and delusional. He said those things. So that's, I don't like that. I mean, you can believe what you want, but I don't I don't appreciate being blasphemous. That I can't get into.
It's important to know with someone, especially who's in government, because, this whole thing about the childless cat ladies, the thing about the childless cat lady thing that he talks about, this is not a dig to those of you that don't have children. But what J.D. Vance was saying with that is that people like Kamala Harris who don't have children don't have a legacy. So they don't look into the future or care about the future. They just care about themselves now here on earth and how to elevate themselves. Mm-hmm. They care about no one else, and they don't care about anything after they're no longer with us. And that makes them dangerous when it comes to decision making. You
live a more selfish existence. That's for sure.
Like for example, Donald Trump has children and grandchildren, and it won't be long he'll have great grandchildren, right? And he wants the country to be made great again, so that his grandchildren and his great grandchildren and his legacy 200 years from now have a great country.
That's what my dad talks about all the time.
Legacy,
because my dad's 86, and he always talks about, I worry about my grandkids. I worry about my kids, my grandkids, their kids. He said, my time's almost over. I worry about the country 50 years from now when my great-grandchildren, my grandchildren are going to be here. He talks about that all the time.
But if you're an atheist, childless cat lady, which Kamala certainly is the childless cat lady part, we don't know about her religion. I think she's probably atheist, okay? She would never tell us, because that would be the end of it. That she would never tell us. Yeah. But she probably is.
We know one thing: everything she says is a lie. So it doesn't matter what she says, because I don't think Democrats know where the truth begins and the lies end and the truth begins.
And you guys can disagree with this if you want, but I'm not comfortable having someone who's president of the United States that does not have children, has no legacy, that doesn't care about the earth after they're gone, or doesn't believe in God. If somebody doesn't believe in God and they don't have children, how can you rely on them to run a country? You can't, because all they care about are earthly things, godless things, right? Power, glory, money for themselves, nobody else. And that makes them dangerous. Now, I want to tell you guys, it is rainy season, hurricane season here in Florida. If you're in the state of Florida and you need a roof repair or roof replacement, you want to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Contracting and Roofing. He's a sponsor here on the podcast. He's been with us on the radio for years, and he does incredible work. You know, when I was on the cruise, there were like 3 or 4 guys that got new roofs from Tom Laporta. They love him. He does great work. He works on every type of structure. If you don't need a new roof, you need a simple repair, he'll do it. He's a very good MAGA guy. I'm going to give you his cell phone number in just a moment. You can also find him online at laportaroofing.com, but it's best give him a call on the cell phone. You get the owner of the company right there on the phone. Boom, you talk to him. In the state of Florida, no matter where you are in the state of Florida, you can call Tom Laporta. Because he's also a general contractor, Florida law allows him to deal directly with your insurance company for the cost of the repair of your roof or the replacement of it. It speeds things up a lot. Kathy and I, before we knew Tom Laporta many years ago, we had roof damage after a hurricane. We had to hire a public adjuster. Our insurance company wouldn't give us enough money to get the new roof. It took over a year, okay? And not only did it take over a year when our roof was damaged, we had to pay 20% of that in a commission to the adjuster. So that 20% that they didn't give us, we had to make that up to get the roof done. If Tom Laporta is dealing directly with your insurance company for the cost of the repair or the roof replacement, you get it done right away, and you don't have that 20% thing. Some people even have to hire lawyers to deal with their insurance company. That's the way it is. Hey, they want to take your money, but they don't want to pay, right? They don't want to pay. So give Tom Laporta a call. His cell phone number is 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. And make sure that you tell him that Brian sent you. My name is Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. This is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time.